was over here, and it was a girl called Leah Betts, and she was actually a policeman's daughter. And she went to a rave and took an ecstasy and overdosed on this ecstasy, or whatever the fuck it was. It was a bad batch, or whatever the fuck. And she died. And she was 16. And I'd never been to a rave. At that point of my life, I'd never been to a rave yet. And I just remember that. And anytime I went to parties and people were like, oh, come on, have you take a pill, man? I was like, take a fucking pill, you bomb clot, take a pill. Which fucking pill? You think me want dead like blood clot, the little girl there? Oh, come on, man, it's not like that. I'm like, no. And I never did. I never took pills, never ever sniffed coke. I think one time I ever smoked coke in Jamaica and it fucking done me in, bro. I was so gone. I said I'll never do that again. And that was just because I was with some real fucking original bad man, them way. Them man, they, you know what I mean? When you're apart with them man, you have to just go with the flow kind of thing. Because you don't want to look like the old one now, or you don't want a man to look at you and feel like, boy, what, you're informer or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we're talking adults peer pressure.
Exactly. But I never grow with that, you know.
Well, and hey, Navi, I gotta let you know, I've enjoyed.
Sound system and Jamaican sound system culture, and you'd have one really mad guy that would chop people up and fucking shoot people, and he'd be the coke man. But you never, all the rest of the man them was chill, even though they still had that, you know, bad man attitude and all of that. Everybody else was chill because we used to smoke fucking weed and get high. You get high and make you fucking chill the fuck out. You know, get creative and write lyrics and you know, smoke some fucking weed, listen to some Bob Marley or listen to some Dennis Brown, Gregory Isaac, Sugar Minor. You know, people that I grew up on, the Rankin Joes and the fucking Lone Rangers and the Brigadier Jerrys and Joe Wheeler and Charlie Chaplin and them man them used to listen. So we never really grow like that. And being, you know, born and grow in England, it was a different thing because even though you grow with the West Indian culture, we wasn't born in the West Indies. You know, so and because I was born in the 60s and grew up in the 70s and 80s, none of that shit that's going on now was there. So, you know, anytime I'll be in a party like that and I see somebody fucking flapping around on the floor, first thing I would think is, they might got blood clot dead. Somebody help them because they're gonna die. You know, so it was kind of crazy for me, man. But yeah, I vaguely remember that party, man.
Well, and you know what? I got to let people know, Navi. I started recording you because I didn't want to miss. You were saying some great things, so I did hit the record where we are going.
Of course, man.
Okay. Just to fill listeners in on what we were just talking about there. It was the Throwdown Party, 1999. If you haven't heard it, it's Mystical Influence, Marcus with MC Det, MC Skibadee, and then later on Navigator comes on, and there's an incident. And if you go listen to the tape, you'll hear that somebody was going through an overdose, and Navigator was the one to stop the music and get that person the help they needed. With that, I want to ask. I've got a bunch of questions here, so I don't want to take up too much of your time. If we don't get through them, hopefully we can talk again. But I want to start off with something you kind of just mentioned, but let's elaborate. What was your first rave experience?
Well, like you mean rave as in like rave party, like the rave scene, or from back in the day when I used to go to parties?
I mean rave, like the first time that you were in an underground event, knowing that there's...
Underground event. Well, I have to pick up the Raga Twins because they was the first man to bring me. They were the first guys to bring me to a rave. Because up until the point where they brought me to a rave, I used to look on the whole rave scene as some devil music thing. That was, you know, any man that comes from sound system from back in the day, when we used to hear about acid parties and things like that, we used to say, "Chap man, that devil music that me now go on in the dancing." So when Raga Twins started, when they got signed to Shut Up and Dance, and started to break out into the rave scene and started doing all the rave music, they were like, "Yo, Navi, you have to come check out this music." So I was like, "Why? I don't know." They're like, "Navi, we're cutting peas, bro. You need to come." So I vaguely remember, but I think the first ever rave I went to would have been circa 1989, 1990. And it was in a city called Bedford in England, and the rave was called Energy. And I went there with the Raga Twins, and we were there. It was freezing cold. It was was in some big tent. There was about 5,000 people. I'd never seen anything like it before, and the music was all bleepy and do 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 like that. That's like I wasn't feeling it, um, but all I remember was rotted. Look at people. I'd never seen that amount of people in a like just a normal party like that ever before. So for me, that was like a. I said to the man, them say, yo, Bridget, what kind of party this? Look for people, look how much people. Say, yo, Navi, are we this, you know? And then they just went on the on the stage and just destroyed, like they literally destroyed the dance. People just going nuts. And I was like, yo, this is serious. So that was my first ever introduction to rave music like that. Not forgetting that I was already hearing about it from say 87, 88. I was already hearing about it because that was the new wave of music in London. It was acid house, and because there was such a run-in with the authorities, because you had all these stockbroker guys going out, and they would just take over farmland and do this. Them time their mobile phone just come in, so they'd have a mobile number. That would be it. The flyer would be blah 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 party and a mobile number.
Mm-hmm.
And people would phone the mobile number, and then they would say, right, we're gonna meet out on some service petrol gas station out on the motorway, like on the M25. They would meet out there, and then they'd form a convoy, and these people would lead them to where it was, because it was a legal party. You couldn't have the flyer saying, yeah, this party here, there, because it was all illegal underground. So yeah, they'd link up with the mobile number, and then they'd basically form a convoy and drive out to some field, and then they'd just keep a party for the whole night. The place would just be full of rubbish and ting and everything in the morning, and then the owners of the field would wake up, whether or not they'd already arranged it with these guys, and then they would try to style it out in the morning, be like, somebody just ransacked my field and kept a party here last night. Then the authorities got involved, and then you started to see in the newspapers, you know, this acid house thing and the rape culture thing, and they taking drugs, and they selling, you know, they selling one tablet for £25, and that's how I got wind of it through the national newspapers. I was like, what the hell is this? You know, and I still didn't really clock onto it, because them time that we are sound, man, you know, we just love sound system, reggae music. At that time, we were the forefront of the digital dancehall era, which was when tunes like Slang Ting. And for people who don't know what Slang Ting is, they'll recognize the bass line. It goes do 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 do. Anytime you hear that bass line, that was a turning point tune in the history of reggae dancehall. And me, D-Man and Flinty, and people like Top Cat and Tenafly and Tipper Irie and Sweetie Irie, General Levy, and all of these guys, we were the forefront of that era. We changed. We became the new school guys of dancehall, digital dancehall. You understand?
Yep.
Well, so because of that music there, I stayed firmly. I kept my foot firmly in the reggae scene. So I didn't get involved at the beginning. It's only when Ragga Twins got signed to Sharp and Dance that I started to go to the rave parties. You know.
Yeah, and the thing that you
just believe it and you like it.
Well, the thing that you mentioned that makes me want to dig in is that you were a lyricist, obviously, before you had come to the rave. So you brought your reggae to this acid house sound. When did that evolve into jungle?
If I'm honest with you, I would say around the first junglist kind of music influence was 1991 to 92.
Interesting. A lot of people say 96, so can you please explain to me how in 91, 92...
Anybody who said 96 don't know jungle. Anybody that says 1996 don't know jungle, because drum and bass was born in 1995, and actually that was 96 was the demise of when jungle music, you know, was the demise of the whole ragga thing. They you know, a lot of the big man them on the circuit were then starting to boycott that ragga sound.
Are we talking the separation of jungle and calling it rebranding it as drum and bass because of the hooliganism that was going on in the rave?
Well, they say hooliganism, my friend, but at the end of the day, you have to understand something. London is a very, very diverse, uh, multicultural, multiracial city, and Jungle was born in London, right? And they were trying to blame basically the black influence or the reggae influence on all of the shit that was going on and the crack coming in and the violence, but it was there already. So let's just blame these boys because they're hot, they're coming, they're taking over. Let's blame these boys, fuck up the stigma that they've created, and X them out and take back our team. Take that how you want. I'm not gonna say anything more than that, but take that how you want. But that's how it was, and I'm living proof. I was there because we felt the full effects of that animosity because it played out in our bookings. We weren't getting no work. I had to go get a 9 to 5 job in 1996.
Well, I've never actually spoken to one of the artists and didn't know that you were one of them, but I've just heard about this stigma. So you're saying you were actually one of these people that was seen as, if I book Navigator, they're going to shut me down.
Well, they're gonna, yeah, that type of vibe. If you're playing, not just if you book Navigator, if you book DJs that play that type of music and have MCs that are MCing that style of MCing, you're asking to bring a certain crowd there, and that is gonna cause problems. It's gonna cause problems. It's gonna be rowdy. There's gonna be fights. People might get killed. Whatever. That was the kind of stigma that was
Gotcha.
being attributed to the whole ragga jungle team. And there were certain men that came up in ragga jungle that just boycotted it and started playing some other music. I mean, I can't on here, but they know who they are, and everybody in the jungle scene in the UK knows that that's what it was. Like, I'm not talking about the new school. We're 25 to 26 years deep here now. So a lot of people don't understand about the connotations and the history of how this whole thing has morphed to where it is now.
Well, the thing I found interesting too is when you talk about the drug culture, it sounds like there was a racist judgment made over there, because in my opinion, my experience with dealing with drugs and stuff, it's all white people. Very rarely am I out on the dance floor and I see somebody of black skin high on ecstasy or MDMA. It's always white folks. So to think that the drugs are being brought in because of black culture, I think is very ignorant.
I'm not gonna say anything more than what I've said. What I'm saying is that this whole ragga thing was tarnished, and we were all tarred with one brush,
Wow.
and it definitely affected the work, and the jungle thing was seen as very taboo, and you don't want to go around them guys there because I don't know, it's a bit dangerous. And yeah, I don't know, I'm not sure, and somebody might get hurt, or they walk around with knives and whatever. Like, that wasn't going on before, and it definitely caused a very big rift and divide in the scene. And at that point, this word drum and bass surfaced,
Hmm.
and the way how they marketed the drum and bass was to a very white student kind of crowd, very safe. Uh, let's get, the radio. They had college radio, national radio, regional radio, and they just tapped into that. The majors came in, and once the majors get involved, you've
Hmm.
got a whole different access to the database, and the type of promotional stuff that you can do when you've got the majors involved, because these things have been set in place since day dot in the music industry by people who knew how to, when you read a record company contract, a major contract, the word exploit is a very big feature. When you sign this contract, you are allowing us to exploit your likeness, your name, your image, your music. That's the word they use. Just so you know that. Just so your listeners know
Well,
that.
well, no, that is interesting, and I want to go back a little bit, because by diving into the rave first, we've skipped over, in my opinion, what's inspired you to be the man you are. What was it that first got you into lyricism?
Um, it was joining Unity Sound, and having to go up and DJ with the likes of D Rockers and Flinty, um, they already rated me, and I had a high respect in Northeast London as the little guy on the mic.
Can we? Yeah, I just want clarification. When you say DJ,
light-skinned guy on the mic too, because there was no guy like me. I was the only light-skinned dude. So it was, it was not only was it just that, it was, the pressure of coming in and having to write new lyrics, because all of these guys had set lyrics. They had written lyrics. I used to just freestyle up to that point.
really?
Yeah, I used to just bare freestyle, listen to Jamaican yard tapes. I recently did a track with Rankin Joe, who's one of the godfathers of the whole DJ thing, and I did a track with him.
And sorry, Navi, I have to cut you off for one sec, just for clarification, because of people, when they think DJ, they think of the guy on the turntables. When you're mentioning the word DJ, you're saying that the selector, you're the DJ, the guy in the microphone, right?
Yeah, because in the sound system culture thing, you have the selector, and then the guy with a chap on the mic was the DJ. We had DJ microphone. That's how it was back in the day. Nowadays, the DJ plays music, and they call the DJ the MC. My generation of MCs, we started to coin that phrase MC and use it in our lyrics. But it wasn't. That's not what we come from. We come from selector and DJ. DJ they on the mic, and selector play the music, and operator play the song.
You know what? And quite often, I'll correct people today when they go, "Hey, you're a DJ, right?" And I'll say, "Well, actually, I'm an MC. But if you really want to go into it, I am a DJ, just not in our culture anymore." So it's amazing how it's evolved out of selector and DJ to MC and DJ.
Deep. It's deep, because we used to listen to the DJs, and to tell you the truth, the reason why, if you go back and watch a movie called Rockers, and there's a scene in there where they go into a club. I forgot the guy's name in that one. Big tick brother had a beaver hat. They go into the club, and they just dash out the guy that was in there. Guy might play something called Fat Funky music. They dash out the DJ out of the booth, and the guy goes in. They start playing the tune, and they're on the mic. So really and truthfully, the original DJs were selectors and toasters in the same instance. So that's why they were called DJ, because they were actually playing the music and toasting.
Is it Gregory Isaacs? Gregory Isaacs.
Gregory Isaac wasn't a DJ. Gregory Isaac was a singer. But there could have been a time when he was selecting music. All of these people, the Duke Reeds and the Studio Ones and the Cox and Dodds and all of these legendary people, U-Roy, King Stitch, Colt Machuki. These are the guys that really, before U-Roy, it was King Stitch and Colt Machuki. Enough people would say U-Roy is the godfather, which he is, because he was the first one to have commercial success. But there were guys before him, and it's like every single person in the music industry looks up to somebody else before them, and that's what everybody has to remember. So when people are looking at me like, "Oh my God, you're a legend," I don't call myself a legend, because there's man before me that I look up to, that when I see them, I'm starstruck, fam. I'm not lying to you. When I see man like Rankin Joe, every time I see them, man, I'm starstruck, man, because I used to buy his records when I was a kid. And them man days, I used to listen on cassette and buy their records, and it's them I used to copy word for word and imitate the voice until I could chat exactly like them. I did that for 5-6 years before I even wrote one lyric. I started to chat music. Next year's 40 years I've been chatting mine.
Well, Navi, I think you're being somewhat humble, because I have to say I did that with you. I was emulating you and copying your lyrics. Everything that you just described is actually giving me goosebumps, because it's funny to me to think that somebody who I was emulating somebody he grew up admiring. And you are a legend. You can't talk.
Check it. Sorry for cutting.
No, go ahead.
It, right? Check it. When a human being is born, right? We can't even talk. We can't clean ourselves. We can't feed ourselves. Yeah, that has to be done for us. We are taught. We have to learn that. So it's the same thing, And then when you get older, you look up to your parents, or you look up to the elders. Even if you didn't get along with your parents, there's an uncle, or there's an older person in the family, or some friend that used to come around and they showed you love that you look up to and you admire that person and that's your role model in life. So everybody has to go through that. It doesn't matter. I would love to do an interview with you, Roy, and ask him who he looked up to. That man's 80. I was just doing a festival in Croatia the other day, and he was headlining it. And come on, I come out and I see you, Roy, on the stage as an 80-year-old man.
80 years old, man. Good for him.
Doing this thing for God knows how long, maybe 50, 60 years, fam. Like, that's crazy. Makes me feel like a little youth in this thing. But I get it that you look up to me as a legend. But yeah, every legend looks up to somebody else as a legendary. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah, I hear you. Then you know what? To be honest, that's what makes these conversations a little easier. If I was very starstruck, I don't think I'd be able to have a coherent discussion. I'd be too gaga, if you will. But when I can remember that you're human and you admire people just as much as I do, and you can empathize with that, then it makes easier to have these dialogues. You know what I mean?
I don't think, people's opinion isn't the person's reality. My opinion of you isn't your reality. I don't know you. I can't know you. Even if I grow with you, the person you are today could be another person tomorrow just by some experience you had. It just changed your whole shit. I'm not looking at the same Aaron as I did yesterday.
Well, at least you know my name.
That's the name that I saw on Facebook.
Okay, I gotta ask.
I'm taking it for granted that your name's Aaron.
It is my name. You know what? And I'm not going to say your name because I do know your name, but we don't need to say it. This is MC Navigator we're talking to, and what I want to talk about is a member of your old crew who passed away, and I was hoping you could share a story with us of Tennerfly. Can you let me know how you guys met and maybe share some experiences you guys had together?
Oh, dude, as you mentioned that guy's name, man, I have to get goosebumps, man, because I met Tennerfly around, I would say I first became aware of him around 82, 83.
Oh, wow.
And then I met him 1985, 1986. And you have to remember, Tennerfly is a man that I used to think wow, because all of them other guys have 80s catalog of music, Roughneck Fashion. Roughneck Fashion, this are the rude boy fashion. That was on a rhythm from back in the 80s that Cox and them made, and it was a version of dum 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 dum. These rhythms are very, very legendary digital dancehall rhythms that were made back in the 80s by people who were innovating new styles of music. And Tennerfly was one of the up-and-coming stars from Brixton, South London. And he made this hit called Roughneck Fashion. And then after that, he made Inner Cities. And then two legendary tracks. And I've seen Jamaicans came over to England and were starring on these shows. And Tennerfly would hit the stage and he would bust the dance more than the Yardies. And that stood out to me. That when I looked at him, I thought, well, if he can do that, then that means I can do that too. So it was an inspirational person to me. I didn't think oh my God, he's the one. I used to think this fucking guy's heavy blood, and if he can do that, I could do that. Same thing with Tipper and all of these other guys that were smashing it back in the 80s. They were the ones that made me realize I can do this. I can step out of the sound system MC role and become an artist. I have to go out there and make it happen. I didn't know how I was going to make it happen, but looking at them, looking at Tennerfly in particular, because Tennerfly, I'll never forget it. One night, I was in North London, and we used to have a couple of people that used to cook food. One was called Teddy. He had a van, but he wasn't as good as Spirit. Spirit died the other day. Spirit was a Rasta man, and he used to cook all idle food and just him up the steamed fish and him up the ackee and sour fish and the hard food and the corn and the pepper corn and them thing there. So we used to all gravitate to them two little vans in the morning after all dance done 6-7 o'clock, and we used to go to a certain park spot where they'd be keeping dances, and then they would be parked outside. And we're not going to the dance, we're just going to go get food. What dance I want, so we might even pop in the dance, but we hear the music there in the party, but we're out there just getting the food. And I remember I was standing there one day, I might eat my little food and I'm seeing Tennerfly come up, and I knew who he was, recognized him, didn't even know he was aware of who I was. And the man just came over to me and he just started louding up the whole thing. He was like, yo, see my DJ, yeah? Spec your ranking. Because they used to call me Spec your ranks back in the day.
Okay.
I say, yo, I spec you ranking, I'm filming DJ, this, you know. I maddest thing, this and that, East London, you know. I was looking at it like, what the hell? Like, you're from Brixton, brother. You trying to set me up, fam? Because I'm a totty, man. I'm a north, man. You're a south, man. You know them way it is, like a little bit suspect. I don't know what's going on, but he was genuinely picking me up and saying that I was his DJ. He was rating me as the man from Northeast London, and this is a man that's got a hit tune on road. And we just hit it off from that day. He showed me that respect, and you know, and that was it. We became friends, and then many years later, ironically, we ended up doing freestylers together and touring out the world for like two and a half, 3 years together.
Can we talk about that? Can we when you talk about being in the freestylers together,
Yeah.
was that coincidental, like you just said, like ironically?
Yeah,
So
yeah, totally coincidental.
no way.
I got a call. This was right at the end of my Radio 1 days. You know, Radio 1 was like,
Yep.
no, we're not using MCs no more, so they're going to get rid of me. And I did a part, they were doing a tour, and I did a party in Oxford, and for some reason, I ain't even going to call no names, but it was a certain set of man, them, certain label, and they had a certain crew. Big name, like the biggest, you know what I'm saying? And they were like, nah, Navi's style of MCing doesn't fit without type of thing. And it was one of the DJs was up at Music House running off his gums about, you know, Navi, he's not ready to do, can't have him on the twig on. So I was like, whatever. So Radio 1 lot said, look, Navi, you know, it's like, we've come to an end, they're going to make sure you get paid and everything. And then on the night of the party, this thing had blown up so much that the actual promoter called me and said to me, Nav, you've been paid, but don't bother to come. They just don't want you here. And I said, listen, I'm coming. Yeah? My name's on that flyer, and I'm coming. Yeah? So I walked up in there, saw everybody that was running up there, man. They never said a fucking word, mate. I just walked in there, looked at them all, and I thought, yeah, this is it, and this is where the real divide comes now. And I remember this record company had wanted to book me on the same night too, just to come on and be the hype man for a band. And they sent me like a chauffeur-driven town car, and you know, I went into this party in Oxford, did my little thing, and then I jumped in this town car, and we drove to Manchester GMX Centre. And I walk into the dressing room, and I walk in there, and it's like I see Tenor Fly. I saw a guy called J Rock. He was part of Black's Posse. He was Black's Posse actually. Then there was Aston there, who I knew from being around Congo 90, Rebel MC, rap. You know, he engineered a lot of them big tunes back in the days. And I walked into this dressing room, I'm like, what the frig is going on here? So Fly was like, yeah, man, well, I go and speak you, man, really, and yo, big tune, and me have the tune, and top my 40, and the chat, and I'm like, what? You got a top 40 tune? He was like, yeah. I was like, what the hell is this? Anyway, so I'm gonna be the hype man now. So anyway, we jump up on the stage. It was a madness. It was a Fantasia. Never forget, it was a Fantasia. And we had 3 break dancers as well. And I remember being on the stage, and one of the break dancers was doing a windmill, and he actually kicked the keyboard clear off the stage. The keyboard just flew into the crowd. And it was a proper messy show, but I hyped that thing like a motherfucker. When I came off the stage, the guy who was running the record label, a guy called Dave, from a label called Frescanova, which was like a kind of one of the freshest labels at that time putting out on music. He just came to me, he was like, that was crazy. He was like, that was awesome. He was like, yo, you should come down the office and see me on Monday. And after that performance, I joined Freestylers and became the hype MC.
How long after that was Warning?
Oh, maybe the next year. I think that was in 1998, and then the next year I made Warning and Roughneck.
Amazing songs, man.
I made Roughneck first, after a lot of wangling and wrangling with them, because they didn't want me to be on the album. They just wanted me to be the hype MC, and I was saying, yo, you know, I can do this thing, but I didn't have a track record as an artist. I never voiced tunes and had any hit tunes yet. The only tune I'd done before that was Iniquity Worker with a kind of contemporary jazz band, but it got onto the Jungle Mania compilation, and the compilation went gold, so I got a gold disc for that.
Good
So
for
that
you,
was the
man.
only thing that I had as writing credit, but obviously I'd been on a compilation that sold 100,000, so you know I had a lot of exposure because of that. But I couldn't say that I was really writing songs. That whole thing came about just because somebody heard me on Cool FM and said, yo, we want to get you in the studio, because they like my content, because I was always chatting reality lyrics, you know. And then, you know, the Roughneck rhythm, they tried about 8 different vocalists and they couldn't get it. And then in the end, it was Matt, not Aston, the other guy, freestylers, that gave me the tape and said to me, "Navi, listen to this and see Records, you know, and that same guy Dave from Fresco Nova walked in the studio, heard it one time. He's like, "Yep, that's the next single." And then after that, I suggested to them to do some like Apollo 440 thing, like I was saying to them, you know that Apollo 440 thing back in the day. There was like the hottest thing, and I was like, let's do some kind of rocky guitars, but with jungle drum and bass with a kind of that ragga vocal over the top, and that's how Warning. That's how Warning was born. Yeah.
No way. Let me ask you, did you get, because I'm sure I could have done my research and I wouldn't have to ask this question, but did it get radio friendly play? Like, did you get anywhere on the charts with Warning?
No, but Roughneck went about
Roughneck did.
top. Yeah, I think we went top 30 with that. You know, about 26 or something. That was a big tune. Like up to now, that's my biggest tune I've ever done. Roughneck. Like I went to Spain with Aries a couple of years ago. And we played a jungle set, and then right at the end, Aries said, "I'm gonna play Roughneck. Navi, I have to play Roughneck because you know that's one of your biggest tunes. And this is Spain, and they love breakbeat." I swear to God, he put the tune on, and the people started moshing. They went mad in there. So, you know, Roughneck was definitely the tune that I think I'm known for more worldwide musically than actually being a jungle MC.
That's interesting. That's where you get your commercial success. Let me ask you, we've talked a lot about your lyricism, but I've always admired you as one of the greatest hosts I've ever heard, and how you can take a 1 hour or even a 2 hour slot and know when to speak, how to speak, the tone to use, not to chat over the. I gotta ask, what do you think makes a good host? If you were to give advice to people trying to be one today.
Well, I'll tell you what my mentor told me, which is the Godfather, you know, MC Moose, right? He said to me, "Navi, listen, Navi, yeah. Listen to what the DJ's doing. Listen to the music. Listen for the mix. Listen for vocals. Work with it. Don't try and overpower it." He didn't even say that to me. It was just one or two glances. He grabbed the mic out of my hand, give me a stern look. Put his finger to his ear, tap his ear. Right? The DJ start mixing, start pointing at the deck to show me what's going on. Right? Then he say two words. Then the vocal come in now, he said, and then he put his hand to his lips. That's how Moose taught me, because Moose is not a man of many words. But if you're a big man and you know how to read them, like we are West Indian, you know, we are the oldest school West Indian, born in this country. We're like the oldest school, man. So we don't grow with that English vibe. We grow with the real West Indian thing. We were born from first generation West Indians that came over to the UK.
Gotcha.
So sometimes it's not a talking thing, you know, big man. It's not a talking thing. You have to watch and look and learn and listen. And that was it. And so for me to give that lesson to somebody who's coming up, I'm not talking about jump up, because jump up doesn't have much vocals. But if you, and drum and bass is very, very musical in certain fields and certain little offshoots of drum and bass. It's very musical, it's very vocal, you know, there's a lot of songwriting going on there, and certain MCs can fit that perfectly. And I could fit that perfectly. It's just that they don't want that ragga style over the thing. But if they said to me, "Don't chat no lyrics, Nabi, I just want you to host," I can do that on any type of music. Because all it is about is just listening to the music, comprehending the structure of what's being done, listening to the DJ, watching the crowd, not just hearing a tune going, "I say DJ, you say pull up," for no reason. There's no fucking reason. Make the crowd respond naturally to what you're doing. And then when the rewind, you hear the crowd calling from the rewind, from the back. I had this conversation with Rage the other day. I was at some chasing the status thing, and me and Rage was talking, and he was saying the same thing to me. He's like, "Now we want to take it back to the old school. Like, it's like I used to listen to you man's a thing," and that's the same thing he was saying. No man, you said you man then went up on the flipping stage, saying to people, "I say this, you say that." I said, that's true. So anybody that's coming up as an MC, if you want to learn how to be a master of your trade, be a lyricist, be a hype man, and be a host, you have to listen to the music. If I'm honest with you, I prefer MCing dances by myself. I prefer to do my set by myself, because then that gives me space and gives the DJ space. Because once you've got, all right, two MCs, okay, but when you've got three MCs up there, mate, it's like a flipping ego fest, and I'm not into that because that's not how I come up with it.
And you know what? I want to say, I obviously am going to go a little anecdotal on this next comment because my experience with you came from AK 1200 live from San Francisco. When I heard that set, and I heard your ability, like you're describing about being alone and being able to time, feel, and just perfectly bless a set with your voice. That was bar none. To me, at that point, I had heard GQ, I had heard Navigator do other sets, I had heard Dynamite, I had heard a lot of guys host sets, but for the first time, there was an art to it, and I was like, this guy is just, he knows the perfect spots to rhyme, the perfect spots just to say something. Like right at the Drowning remix at the near the end of the whole mix, the beat drops, and about the, it's I think on the third bar, you say right selector, and that's it, and I'm like, dude, rewind that, play it again. Right selector. I'm like, it's perfect. It's not. It's not. Wow, listen to that line, or oh, did you hear that rat-a-chat? It's. Did you hear how perfectly he said that at the right time? Like, and it grabbed you.
Man, you know what? That means a lot to me because when people pick up on that, that means they're listening, they're paying attention. So big up yourself. Yeah.
Well, it is, and you turn. Honestly, you're an artist, and I try to emulate.
If I'm honest with you, sorry to cut you. If I'm honest with you, I never liked that mix.
Really?
I didn't want it to come out. I told him no, don't put it out because I wasn't happy with it. Because I remember that night very well. It was in San Francisco. Carl Cox was playing there and all these big DJs and everything. And we started to play, and they basically had me behind the stage on a drum riser with no monitor, with the mic. And I was just like, what the fuck is this? Dave's up there on the stage with the DJ doing his thing, as a DJ doing his thing in front of 8,000, 9,000 people. I think I can't remember, was it Electric Daisy or something, or whatever. It's one of the first of them type of things when it wasn't as big as it got when it got into the EDM phase, and it was hundreds of thousands of people coming there. I'm talking about these festivals like yo, I've done some mad things. What's that one that everybody does down in Palm Springs, down in
the World of Drum and Bass?
No, not World of Drum, but the one in LA. The one in LA that everybody
Oh, Los Angeles. I don't know, man. I'm sorry. The big party I know is Rampage.
Cali, not the party. It's a festival.
Oh, okay.
What do they call that one over there, man?
Coachella?
The first one. They had flipping they had Beyonce on it last year.
Is it Coachella?
Coachella. I did the first Coachella ever.
Really? They had drum and bass at Coachella? You know what? You're right. Yeah, years ago they did. You're right.
It was like
yes.
We was doing a mix up, a fusion of like trip hop and drum and bassy sort of Smith and Mighty kind of stuff. I used to work with this lady called Angel.
Okay.
60 channels, super crucial. She used to bring me over there regular. I did the first Coachella, bro. And so when you're talking about all these festivals and all these big things that's going on now, I can remember being there right at the beginning when they were just starting off. I'll never forget that night though, bro. They had me at the back of the stage, me and the sound engineer was arguing. I was saying to him, boss, I ain't even got a monitor. You know what I mean? He was looking at me, what you need a monitor? It was like the MC was nobody. It's like, we've got the DJ, we don't even need you. What you here for kind of vibe? Just looking at me like, what the fuck do you want from me?
So you couldn't hear yourself?
Hear myself, bro. Just imagine, you're 10 feet, 12 feet away from the back of the stage. The DJ is up on the stage, up some stairs, up on the thing in the bright light with a little DJ booth, and he's doing it to the crowd. And you're on the floor at the back of the stage at 10 feet, 12 feet behind the thing on a drum riser with no monitor and seeing. You can't even hear nothing. Just imagine all the sound bouncing off in there. This is some big hanger or some big tent. Nuts thing, man. I was so vexed that night. I'll never forget that.
Well, for what it's worth, Navi, it's one of my favorite sets of you.
I just did what I had to do. I listened as good as I could, and I fitted my thing in as well as I could, but it wasn't something that I liked doing. But the amount of people that say to me, Navi, that set right there, especially the Americans, are like, that set the bar. That set the bar for MCing and doing it on a big level. That set the bar. And so just one of those things. I'm just one of those lucky guys to be in the right place at the right time, do the right thing, and then it just gets out there. I can remember the guy. It was Moonshine Records. I remember the little guy, man. I forgot his name, man, but he was always trying to get me to do something, man. And in eventually he got that mix and he put it out and it did well as well.
It's a great mix. One thing that I have to ask because it sounds like you. I've heard that you went to school for music, and you can definitely hear it in your structuring. Do you have a degree? Like, are you musically inclined educationally as well?
I have a degree.
Yeah.
From the school of hard knocks. But no, I did a sound engineering diploma in Germany, and I did it in German language. It was one of the hardest things I ever
Wow.
did. But I passed it with about 79, 80%, and it was an experience.
So you speak German?
Well, I speak fluent German.
There's something we didn't know. I don't know how many people would see you walking down the street and go, "Oh yeah, that guy definitely speaks German."
Well, Germany was the savior because back when the split came, that's where I went. The people came and they were like, Navi, you're the don, because I was on Radio One, and they came and they're like, you're the voice of jungle. You're the voice of jungle. We want you on our party. And there was a big party over there called Meditation in Mannheim area. Mannheim was like the capital of jungle in Germany, and they brought me there, and I smashed that dance to shreds. It was me, Raga Twins Hype, Kenny Kane Rap, Mickey Finn, oh my god, GQ, Dead, Brocky, mad party, mad, mad, mad. When the dance done, like people was balling for one more for about half an hour before the dance done. I came off of the stage and there was about 50 people waiting for my autograph. And the promoter just came up to me and said, I want you as resident MC. And that was my first residency. I was the first MC to have a residency in Germany. And this is you're talking about 1995, 96.
Okay.
These meditation parties, it was huge, huge, 1,000 to 1,200 people coming to these parties, strictly jungle. People traveling from Switzerland, Austria, Holland, Spain, France, Italy to come and be at these parties because it was such a brand new sound and everybody wanted a piece of it. So, that's how I got into Germany. And then being over there and listening to them talking, I'm like, what the fuck are they saying? And eventually I was just made a commitment and I did an integrations course. I won't go into it, it's a long story, there's a reason why that happened, but yeah, I did this integrations course and I passed it. As a matter of fact, when I went to do the test for it, they put me in the top class, and it was hard as a motherfucker, boy. And I was in my late 40s then. It was hard, but I was determined to learn it, and I learned it, and then I lived in Germany for 10 years as well. So I still have an apartment in Berlin right now.
No way.
Yeah, man.
I had
I've
no
lived
idea,
in Germany
man.
for the last 12 years, man. I've had a very big affinity with that country, and over there I'm definitely a legendary figure, and I'm still very active and still doing a lot of stuff. And I've worked with a lot of Germans. The whole Raw Hill crew thing was born in Germany.
Was it?
So anyway, yeah, it was. But anyway, I did the diploma to familiarize myself with and learn more about application to sound design, because I was always intrigued by frequency and vibration, and I was always intrigued by frequency of voice because of coming back from the sound system days. And if you listen to all of them DJs back in the day, they all had different voices, different flows, and different styles of lyrics. That's what made us all so individual. It wasn't so uniform like that, where you have one man who chants like that and you got 50 clones. It wasn't that. Everybody, you learn, you sort of emulated and copied somebody, and then you went off and found your own style within that, which is what a lot of these guys do today as well. But because it's so similar, it's like very hard for me to differentiate. I can now because it's been around for a while, the double time thing, the drum and bass thing. I grew up with that and watched that grow.
Aside from the double time thing, who do you think was the first one to come up with the voice? Like, I know you mentioned MC Moose before, and he had that, like, hey, like, who was it the first one to get on a microphone and go, like, Selecta? Like, where did that voice come from?
I would have to say Moose, man.
Moose, right?
Moose was the one that when I heard him, I was like, big man thing. That's a big man thing right there. And even though Moose isn't lyrical like us, because he never came from that lyrical background of chatting on sound like that. Moose comes from a sound system background. He had party sound and could play dance and all of them, man. They are sound, man. And that's the reason why he's got that voice. So what I'm saying about frequency is, how do you pitch your voice into the mic? A lot of these guys nowadays, they sound bland, like they're just talking. I did this, I did that, I went down to the shop and thing. Yeah? When we chat, we sharpen our vocals. We project and use the vocal cord instrument. And that's the reason why I can sing. Angel was one of the first people to say to me, Never, you've got such a beautiful singing voice. You should try to expand on your singing. She was one of the people that made me do that. I sing a lot more than I did now. And singing also came natural to me because I grew up on singers like Dennis Brown, Sugar Minor, Gregory Isaac, Barrington Levy, Johnny Clark, Johnny Osborne, all of these guys. So I used to sing their songs. Do you understand me? So I would sing pieces of their songs in the dance as well. You sing along, sometimes you harmonize. The first guy that ever taught me, and was like my musical mentor, was a guy called Festa Syrie, Roland Glasgow. And he used to sing. He could DJ, but he used to sing. He taught me how to harmonize. These are the things. So I was always intrigued by frequency. First time I heard my voice through a microphone, I was like, rah, that's my voice. I had to get used to that. It took me a minute to get used to that. And then after that, I started to focus on it, projecting and how do you pitch your voice into the mic. That's what a lot of guys don't do nowadays. To me, that's the artistry, because we learned that from sound system. Writing music was secondary to us because we grew up listening to song structure. Writing songs for me was just a natural progression because I already knew how to do it because I was listening to people. You sing a hook, you have a verse, maybe you get a chord change, you might do a bridge there, you go back to the original thing again, you sing another verse, then you go back to the hook. I've got on my album, I've got many examples of how to arrange vocals and how to write songs in different ways. You don't have to go the normal conventional way. But coming back to the whole projection thing and frequency and vibration, I can remember sitting in this class and the teacher was demonstrating physically drawing sound waves and showing us what sound waves do, and when 2 or 3 sound waves are running at the same time, what would happen. And he was saying, you see, when these two sound waves are running in the same order, like in the same way, and vibrating at the same rate, they amplify. And when those 2 sound waves are going opposite to each other, they cancel each other out. And right at that point, I had this realization. It was like an epiphany. That's the reason why people get along and they don't get along. It's either the vibration, it's either the frequency of the vibration, because a frequency is the amount of vibrations in that wave. The frequency of the vibration. So the vibration is the thing that's actually vibrating, making the sound, and the frequency determines how quick it's going or how slow it's going. If it's slow, then it's a lower tone. If it's fast, then it's a higher tone. Do you understand? That's what
Well, I think what you're saying is it that when people argue,
in terms of source energy, sound is a source energy. So you're being taught about a source energy, which is sound, which we all have an affiliation with because we love music. And we speak. The vibration that we vibrate in, that keeps the flesh on the bone. That's how we stand, and that's how we exist, and that's how we move as human physical beings. It's a vibration. So now you're vibrating the sound. What about the word sound? He asked me, what is sound? What is sound? And people are saying it's vibration, it's frequency, but it's not. And when he told us what it was, I was like, wow, what is sound? It's a compression of air molecules banging against each other that makes a sound. It's got nothing to do with vibration or frequency. After you've made the sound, then it's vibrating. And the frequency of the vibration determines how high or how low it sounds in terms of pitch or note or key. I learned these things in the college. And that's what gave me a greater understanding of music. It gave me a greater understanding of frequency and vibration. It also gave me a greater understanding of how that relates to everyday life and our interaction with other people, right? And then after that, I learned about sound design, where you take a sound, you could take a sine sound, you could take any type of sound, right? A tone, and alter that and manipulate that and make it into anything else that you want with the help of filters or plugins or whatever. That's what I learned in college. And I also realized at that point that I didn't want to be a producer because I didn't want to be sitting in front of a computer 24 hours a day. I'm a vocalist and I wanted to be a vocalist, but I know now what the producers do.
It's
so
monotonous.
When I go into a studio with most producers nowadays, they say, I've never worked with an MC like you before, man. You know exactly what you want to hear and you don't give up until you get it. And they respect that, but that came from doing that diploma.
Well, the profanity in your understanding of sound.
They wanted me to go do the masters, man, but it was too hard, bro. German language as well. I was doing it in German language. It was crazy. I
Well, but when I hear you talk about your understanding of sound and frequency, I myself am learning as you're speaking. I'm loving it. But that passion for sound and stuff definitely comes out in your ability to control your voice, control your projections. You hit a couple nails on the nose there when you were talking about people understanding structure, understanding that you can manipulate maybe the verse and bridge and chorus aspect to a song, but if you're going to make a radio friendly song, you need to know the structuring of music. But we're not even talking about that. We're talking about how to control your voice. And I think that is
Yeah.
lost in a lot of MCs these days. They're looking at
It's gone.
it's
It's
totally
gone. That's the reason why. That's the reason why man's like me stand out.
it's true.
You know, because you can hear it. You can hear the different frequency. You know, the sound engineers in the party set the mic to the majority of the MCs. When I come on the mic, I need attention, bro. I need attention. I love Moose because Moose will just come in there with his little box of tricks, fling up the thing, take out some next mic and go, yep, yo, mic check one. And when you hear his thing just sounds so clear and crisp. You just want to take the mic you got in your hand and just dash it. Because his thing just sounds like some next thing, and that's what you get when you're a sound man. You know these things. You know how you want it to sound. So my thing needs attention when I come in there.
Well, I think there's something to be said there too, Navi. A lot of MCs don't have the name or the schlock to pull such a thing to say, listen, Mr. Promoter, if you're gonna have me MC your set, I'm gonna have my own sound guy, and it better be set to my levels because you do need that. If when Navigator comes to Toronto, Navigator gets treated like a king. So he gets.
I can't wait to come back, man. I've been there for 15 years.
Hey, I said that. I said 2003 was your last time here. Was I right in saying
No,
that?
actually 2005. 2005.
Okay. Do you remember who you were here with?
Sure, it was the Docs.
Was it Dillinger?
It might have been that one. Was Brocky on that?
Brocky, Dillinger, you, and GQ.
Or Ray Keith, was he there?
Maybe it was Ray Keith. Yeah, Ray Keith. That's who it might have been. I don't remember. I just remember you and GQ. And I remember you had one of those reverb mics, so where you could make your voice distorted by putting that. You were using like this thing. It was like, the people use it on their throats, like the trachea pipe that makes you sound like this. You had like one of those, and you were putting it to the mic to make your voice sound like this.
Oh, I don't know, man. He's gone somewhere else there now.
Okay, I gotta ask you then. What is your biggest memory of Toronto? Can you share a memory of our city?
Toronto, man. Okay, there's two very, very. There's so many, man. You can't even ask me that. All right, let me just. All right, yeah. So the first party I ever did, I think, was for Cyrus.
Okay.
And they did it in the National Exhibition Center or something like that. And this place was huge. Like, it was ridiculously huge. I think they had DAS effects on it as well. They had like hip hop. They had it like separated, right? It was one big hall, they had it separated in the middle. So you had all this bleed going on. So you had hip hop on one side, going out to that wall, and then you had drum and bass jungle on the other side, going out to the other wall. And they were right back to back. There was no separation. It was not two rooms, it was one room. It was fucking crazy. So anyway, we fly to Toronto, get to the hotel, food up, everybody look after me, whatever. Driving to the venue now, we get to what was the venue. I didn't know that. And we're driving past this place, and I could just see this line of people, 3 people deep, and it was long. It was going right around the building, and we're driving past it, obviously looking for parking spaces. I didn't know that was a party, and I'm like, rah. I said, whoever's doing that party, blood, they're gonna have a good one tonight, boy. Look at that crowd. And the man said, Navi, that's your party. You're performing there tonight. My eyes nearly popped out my head. I couldn't believe it. Man. There must have been about at least, it got to be 20, 25,000 people. It was ridiculous, man. And then I went in there. So first night I met Caddy Cad. From there, me and him became a lifelong friend. He just came up to me. He's like, yo, so want me to smoke weed? I said, yeah, man. And he just pulled out this Jamaican weed, man. And I built a spit for that. And I was like, yo, big man, you're a lifesaver, man. Because it's big flavors I got. He said, man, me know you're a thing, man. I remember it was Randall, and I think Fats was there too. It was me, Randall, and Fats. One of the sickest things I've ever done in my life, man. Mad. And And then after that, I remember Congo Natty did a party with one. I think this little guy named MC Trigger. It was a Trigger. It was an MC up there called Trigger.
Yeah, we know Trigger.
Yeah, man. He put on one of the baddest parties ever, man. In some ice skating rink. Man. Congo Natty, Skipper was there. There was a bare big man up there, man. It was a wicked party as well.
Yeah.
I did most of ball with Lenny Kravitz as well.
What?
I did most of ball with Lenny Kravitz, man.
No way.
That was mad. That was mad, man. Yeah, we toured with Lenny Kravitz, freestylers.
That's awesome.
We did some big things with freestylers, man. We were everywhere, man.
Well, you hit the mainstream commercial level with freestylers. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, I was on Best Buy commercial in America.
Wow.
National TV. Crazy.
That is crazy. Okay, I'm heading into the last couple questions for you here. I really do appreciate you taking the time, though, Navi. It's been a great conversation, man. Are you familiar with Mount Rushmore?
I am.
Okay, so if there was a Mount Rushmore for drum and bass music, who would the four faces be?
Oh gosh, I didn't know. Wow. Well, for me, Ragatunes would have to be up there because they're the guys that introduced me to this, and they were like mega stars back in the day. There's so many people, man, but I would say Ragga Twins. I just have to put Stevie up there just because of the mega friggin' achievements that he achieved, and then it'd have to be Congo Natty and Goldie for me.
Goldie, eh?
You have to put Goldie there.
Really?
You have to put Goldie there. I don't care what anybody wants to say. Goldie. All right. So we spoke about the frequency of vibration, right? Goldie has a vibration to him. It's not about sitting in the studio and making music. Me and Goldie used to knock heads back in the day. He's a consummate and original junglist that used to come and dance and jump up like a nutter in the dance of the music and feel it like us and make mad tunes. Reinforce and Roughage Crew and all of them tunes were mad tunes back in the day. I don't know if he engineered them. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about what he engineers as a vibration and as a frequency, as a free spirit in connection and with regard to jungle music. And he's an icon. And he orchestrated a lot of things and brought you a lot of people. And he's definitely one of the people that I rate as one of the main reasons why jungle got the prolific, jungle drum and bass, why it got that prolific exposure to the real mainstream, to even movie, Hollywood and all of that.
I get you. He's brought it.
He's one of the main people. Congo Natty, obviously, because of what he orchestrated and the frequency that he vibrates at. Stevie Hyper D is still vibrating at a frequency right here and now. Everybody's feeling Stevie same way.
Navi, can you share with me your first time hearing Stevie and what you felt or thought the first time you saw or heard him?
I saw Stevie at a party called Thunder and Joy that used to be on a Sunday, and he walked in there, took out the mic and just destroyed the place, and he just stomping up my face. Yeah, man, remember you in Uzbek? Yeah, you used to listen to us, you come up. So we know that Stevie was, a byproduct of what we did on sound systems. Even though Stevie is up in our age group, he never really bossed on sound, big sound like we did. There was just a select few men that bossed on sound system, and we're still here now, because we maintained. Stevie didn't have, he came at the wrong time. Same thing with Demolition Man. Another wicked artist, but he was just slightly shy of the time when it was the hot period. After that died, then man, they went off and did ragga hip hop and Demon Boys, and they did this ragga hip hop thing. But Demo, he stayed on the reggae thing. He's another exceptional artist, but they just were just that shy of it. So they looked up to us as the people who they wanted to emulate, and Stevie shared that with me. And me and Stevie were friends, man. He was my brethren, I went places with him. I remember the first time we went to Germany, he weren't charging enough, but when I heard what he was charging, I was like, big man, you have to put up your price, You know what I mean? I had to kind of school him a bit and thing, but he was a good guy, man. Good guy, very, very what Skipper's like now. That was what Stevie was like back in the day. A lot of people came off of the back of him because he was the one that married the fast style and the ragga together as a younger. I wasn't really doing the fast style. I could do little fast things, but I wasn't really chatting lyrics like how they chat lyrics. We chat lyrics like back in the sound system, the reggae style. So, but he was an iconic dude, man, from back in the day, man. There's no denying it. Any man that turn around and say Stevie Wonder Don, all of them would have to bow down to Stevie, all of them. But Stevie came off of us, and he was a very, very respectful guy. He always respected the old school man, and he had a very high regard for me, and vice versa. Rest in peace, Stevie, man.
Rest in peace. Final question for you, Navi. If you could put 5 items in a vault that would encapsulate the rave culture, what would those 5 items be? So keep in mind, we were going to bury this thing, and in 10,000 years, they're going to open it up, and they're going to want to see what the rave was. So we're going to put 5 items in this vault that are going to describe what we were doing at this time.
First thing would have to be a newspaper clipping of the late 80s in the UK when it got hectic and they brought in the what was that act that they brought out? Was it the Noise Pollution Act or something? But they brought out this act, basically the Rave Act, whatever the hell it was. But
yeah, in London, it happened to you guys. Yeah. It didn't happen to us here until the 90s, but I know what you're talking about.
But that there would definitely have to be a newspaper clipping of that. Then there would have to be like a cassette of something like AWOL, A Paradise, or World Dance, a cassette of that. Then there'd have to be like a compilation album of all of the jungle songs that came out in '93, because I would kind of skip the hardcore era, because for me there weren't enough. There were some beautiful tunes that were made them times, that were really great, but it wasn't long enough for it to have that much of an influence, because that was like the stepping stone going into jungle. So then we got a jungle compilation. So we got the news clippings, we got the tape, we got the compilation, and then after that it would have to be like a documentary, maybe even my documentary, which is called Evolution of a London MC, just showing the journey.
What is this? Sorry, Navi, I got to cut you off. What is Evolution of a London MC?
Okay, so I'm going to relaunch it. See, that's the perfect reason why I'm going to relaunch the documentary, because a lot of people do not know about this, and I don't have access to funds on a major level, a major label level, where I could really put this documentary out there and show everybody what my story was coming up, and basically what that documentary is about. I did it with a guy called Jamie, and he has a little setup called Be Culture London, and he approached me to do a documentary to show the connection between sound systems into rave culture, and how this whole thing, even going into grime, all comes from a sound system culture and background. And I said to him, well, I wanted to do a documentary about my life, showing my journey as a sound man and as a DJ on the microphone, and then mutating and transforming myself into a rave MC, and then into the artist that Navigator is today. I wanted to show that in my story. So we decided to make the two things one, and film this documentary about my life. And we did it in 3 sections. We did it in we did a lot of shooting, but we did like maybe 10-12 minutes. The first part was 10-12 minutes, where I just spoke about where I was born, how I got the name Specky, how I became Navigator, some of my stuff. I'm a jeweler, I'm a qualified jeweler, silversmith. So we went down to Hatton Garden, which is the place in London for jewellery, and I went into the workshops where I learned jewellery, and I sat there with guys, and they were speaking to them about me, and my energy, and how they knew that I was going to be big and all of this, and and I showed them a little bit about jewellery and how I used to make jewellery and stuff, and we were just talking about music and the story of me coming up through the ranks as a little MC, as a party sound MC, to I got into dance halls and started to do schools and church halls and all these type of things, and then eventually getting into the big arena where we were clashing with other sounds.
Can we find this online if we go looking for it?
If you put in Navigator, Evolution of a London MC, you'll see it come up parts, and the last part was shot in Berlin. For the most part, just talking about my the migration from London to Germany, just to open up the scope and study and look within and just hold a meds and formulate myself again to come back with the assault that I came back this time around. Winning Best Jungle MC after being an MC for 25 years in jungle is like an amazing thing. It was an amazing thing for me. I didn't even know what to think when I won it. I was like, are you sure, Navi? I'm Best Jungle MC. Like, wow. But winning that this year was like crazy for me because it was just one of those things that you check off on your checklist to say, I did that as well. Didn't matter how long it took. But I think everybody needs to take time out. The key to longevity is to always to look within and look at different angles, because otherwise you just do the same thing over and over again and you don't progress, you don't expand. My album was called Alignment for a reason, and the next album will be called A Name for a Reason, and the one after that will be called Something for a Reason, because I know exactly what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This is about Navigator, the human being. This is about how I vibrate. This is about how I orchestrate. This is about how I emulate, stay, appreciate, very grateful for the position that I'm in and having the talent, that the Creator, the Father, the universe has blessed me with. So therefore, you always have to look within. Do you know what I'm saying?
100%.
Coming back to what we were saying. So we've got the cassette.
We've got the newspaper clipping. We've got the cassette tape package, and we've got a copy of your documentary. We've got 2 more items that we need.
Right. Then we would have to have some item of clothing in there that would illustrate or relate to it. I don't know. Maybe a Cool FM jacket or something like that.
Can you get your hands on a Cool FM jacket? Because I would actually take it before I put it in that vault.
I can guarantee you there's people that's got that in their wardrobe right now in pristine, crisp condition that don't go nowhere. It's just sitting there. They don't ever take it out. Once in a while they might take it out and look at it and think, wow, it's like a cherished possession.
Yeah.
Cool FM MA2 bomber jacket, something like that. And then the documentary, man. I think there's definitely what it should be, a London something this done by Rachel Seeley. That documentary right there, where me and Demon are friendly chatting. If I prison you are go, then go and go do your time. If you're free at that prison, you ever seen that clip with me and the two man?
You know what? I don't know. I've seen an old documentary. I thought it was called Cool in London or something, and it was with you and Kenny Ken, I remember. And you're young, man. You're probably in your 20s or something. And
No. I looked young. I was already 30.
Were you?
Okay. Yeah, I was already 30 in '93. I'm 55 now.
Okay. So do you know the one I'm talking about? The old documentary with
That's
you?
That's the same one. It's the same
It
one.
is the same one, eh?
Yeah. It's called A London Something This.
I've seen it, man.
Seeley.
Yeah, and I was, to be honest, I saw that documentary about 20 years ago, I think, and I was amazed that I got to see, because I'd only heard of you at that point. This was the first time I got to see you, and I got to be honest, I thought you were white. I'm like, oh, he's white! And the guy's like, no, he's not white, man. Navigator's not white. Like, he looks white.
Yeah.
But
White skin, but, the culture, the melanin. The melanin is in the spirit, in the soul,
But there was a part of me that went, well, if he can do it, I can do it. There was that what you were talking about when you heard Tenor Fly. If he can do it, I can do it. And to be honest, the first time somebody said that to me, it was I was doing a radio slot, and the guy said, he's like, the day I saw you on the radio, I was like, wow, if he can do it, I can do it. And I was like, that sounds kind of insulting. Like, what? Because I can do it, anyone can do it? What do I look like? But it's the truth. When you see that the person that you are putting on some sort of like godlike pedestal is just another human being, you humanize them, and you're like, well, shit, man, if he can do it, I can do it. And when I saw that documentary, I got to visualize people I'd only heard before. You know what I mean? But anyways, Mr. Navigator, please stay on the phone with me. I'm going to sign off to my listeners, but I want to talk to you still. Is that okay?
Yeah, man, no problem, man.
All right, awesome.
Keep on recording. You can keep on recording. Anything was just keep on recording.
You want me to just keep recording? I got questions I was going to ask you off record, but okay, let me ask you this. Okay.
And then just take out whatever you want to take out. I'll tell you what to use and what not to use.
Okay, and we can do that. We can always clip things out. I wanted to talk to you about Pyro Radio a little.
Pyro. Yeah, okay. Let's talk about Pyro.
Okay, so what's your involvement with Pyro Radio? Like, are you involved with the founding of it, or are you just an artist who's passed through their studios and recorded?
Well, yeah, I would have to say I'm involved in it in a kind of a deep way. And the guy who runs Pyro is a guy called Filthy Richard. And Richard, I've known since he was about 16 years of age, and he used to do a little community music program thing. And he passed his NVQ. That would be a little um, certificate that you get to say that you've done this little music course thing that was teaching him. I don't know, flipping. What do they? Not Logic. They were Cubase. They were teaching him
Oh,
Cubase.
okay, yeah.
So, and it was all jungle involved. And anyway, so when they were going to get presented with their NVQ certificates, normally the mayor of London would come down to Sadler's Wells and present them with their certificates. Well, these boys got together with Rich at the helm of everybody, saying, "We don't want the mayor of London. We want Navigator because we don't, you know, relate to or connect with, you know,
The mayor of London.
he's our mayor of London." So I got invited down there, and I gave Filthy Rich his NVQ certificate. And when he passed this thing, and I remember afterwards speaking to him, and I said to him, "You're a very impressionable young man, and you're going to do well so long as you stay focused and you know, apply yourself to what you've learned here today." And I said, "And that doesn't just mean the music. You've learned more than that. You know, there's many ways you can apply yourself in this business and make something happen." And then he went off and he started off Pyro. And then he called me and was like, "Nav, you know, I really appreciate your support and everything." So, you know, I went down to the studio. We did a couple of shows for him. Then he started doing parties. I used to go down to his parties and do it for next to none, just, you know, petrol money or whatever. I would support him, you know. And then and he became a DJ, and he was doing his thing, and, you know, he was putting on his parties, and he was doing good. He was getting the numbers and everything. It was great. And then obviously, you know, things move on. Music develops and whatever expands, and we lost contact. And then I heard that he was actually turned into a football scout, where he was looking for, you know, talented soccer players to sign to clubs. And he was doing that for a while and was doing really well, made a lot of money. And then I think about 3-4 years ago now, I was down Victoria Station, South London, walking through the station on my phone, loud, talking to somebody like blah blah blah, and then all of a sudden I hear somebody come in my left ear like blah 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 blah. I was like, "What the fuck is that?" I turn around, I look around, and it's Rich. It's like, you know, Richard, and we're like hugging up. "Oh my god, oh my god!" So I finished the call, and I'm like, "What's going on?" He's like, "You got time?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Come, let's go and have a pint, you know, let's go have a Guinness or something." So we went to this pub, and we buy a Guinness, and we start talking. He's like, "So what are you doing, man?" I know nothing. And I start showing him all my new stuff, videos and stuff. He's like, "Wow, you're busy." And he's like, "You know what? Been doing this you know, this football scout thing for a while now." And it's like, you know, but he says, "I love music," innit? I was like, "That's it, innit?" I said, "Why do you think I've never took a 9 to 5 job, or I've never done it? You know, I've always done music because that's what I'm about. I can't do anything else. It's like the only thing that makes me feel alive. So, you know, that's what I do. And there's many things I can do within that." And he was like, "Yeah, I want to get back into it, but I didn't know, I don't really want to be a DJ or rah rah." So I said, "So what about the radio?" He was like, "Yeah, I was thinking about it." I was like, "Bring back Pyro, man." He's like, "You know what, Nav? I think you just give me the kick up the ass what I need." Then he went off and went and sorted out some funding and stuff like that. And now he's set up Pyro again. And they asked me to come on and do a show, which I did. And I was doing it for nearly 6, 7, 8 months, something like that, a monthly show. And it was wicked, you know. But then I got to a point where I had to choose, because I was so busy doing my album and wanted to drop this album. And I was doing a lot of the orchestration. Me and Lined Up worked very tightly together. We financed it ourselves. You know, we spent a lot of money putting it together. And I had to just, you know, commit myself and donate the time to that. So I came off of the radio station, and I've been off of it now for nearly a year and a half. And it's funny you should mention his name, because he called me about 4 days ago. He sent me a message on Twitter like, "Yo, Navi, I'm doing some sound clash thing, DJ clash thing, and I want you to come down and referee it." And then we spoke again, and I was like, "Yeah, you know, I want to get back into doing the radio." And he was like, "You know, you can come anytime you want, man. Just holler me and you can just come down and, you know,
Well,
do the
Navi, I
show."
gotta ask, what do we do? Because there's some Toronto artists, like, you know, the people, Caddy Cad, Marcus Visionary, Capital J. I think that there's some
Right.
talented Toronto artists that would love to be on that platform. Is there a way for that to happen?
Well, let's look at Lion Dub. Lion Dub is he's got his own setup, and he broadcasts on um, Cool FM, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I can also offer you guys this, which is you can give me an hour's mix, and I'll feature it on the show. You do an hour's mix, pre-recorded with your MC. You send it over to me. I'll vet it, listen to it, and see if it's what I'm looking for, and then I would air that on my show. I play half an hour, it's like reggae dance, which I'll pop with reggae dance or music in the first part, first half an hour. Then I'll run your mix as a feature, and then after that I play some hip hop or whatever, and afterwards some drum and bass jungle. You know, after the break. I'm also gonna me and David Boomer have been working very closely at the moment. We're about to start a live band.
Sorry, you and who? Who was it? You and who?
Me and David Boomer.
Okay.
You know who David Boomer is?
No, I can't say I do.
Well, David Boomer's a very prolific singer.
Okay.
And he's made a lot of, I don't know, you remember the Shy Effects tune called If You Are Bad Boy, You Can Keep on the Run If You Are Rude.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, wicked tune. That's him?
That's David Boomer.
Okay, he's got a great voice and an awesome rhythm. I know who you're talking about.
So he is like a brother to me, we're brothers, man. So we've been working together a lot over the last 4 or 5 years, and we've made a decision now we're going to commit to making a band together. But he's also a very awesome DJ. He can really put the tunes together. And he's had his own radio show on Cool FM before, known for doing radio. And I think we're just going to link up and make the thing a solid thing and promote a brand name, and that's what we're going to do. So we're gonna start doing that. I think next year on Pyro. So yeah, Pyro. I'm involved in a very deep level with respect to Rich, and he has a partner as well. I'm not involved in an administrative level, but like I can pretty much orchestrate or wangle anything I want around Pyro because of the connection I have with Filthy Rich.
That's awesome. You know what? I got one final thing I'm going to ask you. It's going to dig you back to about maybe 15 years ago.
Right.
You were doing work with MC Riddler, if I'm not mistaken. You had been part of the Fully Loaded crew.
No, I wasn't part of Fully Loaded. Basically, he hollered at me to voice a tune for the some guys called Chemists.
Yes.
Yeah, and then I voiced the tune, and they took off Riddler's vocal off of it and just used mine, and they ended up, me and Riddler ended up falling out over it.
That's what I was going to ask about. That's why sometimes I like to ask these questions off record. But do you mind diving into it a little bit? What happened? Was it just the producer preferred your lyrics and decided to run with it, or?
Yeah.
That's all it was.
Yeah, that's what it was. And then he said to me I should take off my vocal off the thing, and I was like, big man, I ain't got no say in that. At the end of the day, you've invited me to come on a track. These people have listened to the track, taken my vocal, and taken yours off of it. What the fuck has that got to do with me? We had a little bit of an exchange, and he got a little bit, aggressive, and he's got his people around him, and what it's like, man. He's a South London boy, I'm a North London boy, and at that stage, I wasn't the expansive individual that I am now. I was very, very ignorant in a lot of ways, and this ignorance was caused by a lot of fight from hostile elements of the scene that don't like to see another man shining, don't like to see another man eat food on them levels, and they would, on a slide, on a down low, fight you down, which makes you have to be, you have to go on the offensive, or you just take it lying down. I wasn't taking it lying down, I went on the offensive. You're not going to tell me nothing. I'm eating my food out here, and you have to stand up and be a man. It's a bit boisterous, but you have to stand up in there and jockey for position and get what you're getting. It's not like nowadays. Some people just do it for the fun of doing it. Back in them days, it was a proof thing. Sound system thing was a proof thing. Who's got the better sound? Who's got the best dubplate? Whose sound the best? Who's trapped the wickedest lyrics? Who's got the biggest beeline? Who's got the crispest tops? This is what we come from. It's healthy competition, but some people just take it a little bit more serious, and then they start talking all that crud.
Well, I think they take it personal, man. I get what you're saying, Navi. On a profound level, I understand everything you're saying. Some people wear their heart on their sleeve, though, and they take it very personal. And and
And
I
that's
know
the,
your
that's you can't
personalities.
do that.
It's- What's that? Sorry, say it again.
I said you can't take it personal.
Well, no, but and as a result, to be honest, MC Riddler and I go way, way back. He was one of the first artists I ever brought out here, and when that incident was going on, I was talking to him, and I honestly loved your laydown. Like if I had that track right now, I'd play it. It was a great song, and I do know him well enough to understand what probably occurred, and we've talked about this. Egos getting in the way of progress, and it sucks what happened, in my opinion, with MC Ridley. He won't even come on my podcast, and I've known the guy for over 20 years, but he's done with drum and bass. He
I
wants
know, but
nothing to
sorry,
do with
man.
it.
We speak, man. We speak. I'm cool with him now, man. We sorted it out.
And now he's in
But
financial advising.
he's a merchant banker, man. He's making big P,
But honestly, Navi, he's one of the greatest lyricists we ever saw in our community, and he's gone. You know what I mean? Like, really, in my opinion, Riddler was the kind of guy who just he had a very strong contention to his way. He didn't play the political side of things, and he wanted his talent to shine through. And I think there's an example of a guy who allowed his personality to get in front of his progress in our scene. Because if he would have bit the bullet and maybe played a little bit more of the political game, we'd be hearing Riddler rather than X-Men. That's my opinion.
Well, he made a choice, and it was who he was around as well. They had a big influence on him. So you rolling around with G's and thugs and shit, man. Your mentality is a certain way.
Well, that's interesting that you say that because we talked earlier about the taboo around those types of people, and you saying that it was kind of misprojected towards you. Would you say that he was actually hanging around a bad crowd that really was a bad crowd?
Yeah, there was definitely a bad stigma attached to his name, and a lot of people didn't book him because of that. It's kind of like Dreps now, and Dreps is another one that's out there, and he's got that little badman image to him, and he's connected to certain people, and people, he's coming through now. He's buckled down and started dealing with his thing, and he's not punching up people in the dance and things like that. But like, you know what I'm saying? So when you're rolling with a certain set of man, and you come in the dance with them man there, straight away people are like, I don't want the people in my dance. And the promoter is not going to book you, not because he doesn't want to book you. He doesn't want those people that you come to the dance with in his party. So therefore now, you're not going to get that booking.
And that's the sad thing.
That's how it was, and that's how it is even up to now. Because there's certain parties that just switched up the whole lineup. Bro. They're just like, we just do a jump up thing. Because every time you bring them fucking man there, there's always problems. So they don't book certain mans and they don't put them on the lineups. That's just how it is. I think with Riddler, he, I think he kind of believed his hype too much because he used to, the crowd used to love him. He believed his hype too much, and then when he started making the music and trying to make the next level thing happening now, and he's calling me on his track, I'm gonna outshine you, Riddler, bro. You ain't on my level. No disrespect to you, but you're not on my level. So therefore, you have to make your music by yourself, keep it on that frequency. You bring me into the whole game, it's a different thing. I've got more status than you. My voice is different to yours. I've got better songwriting skills than you. I know how to, pitch my voice into the mic differently to you. And, that's what happened. The people them like my vocal more than they liked his. But what he did is he tried to talk to me like I'm some little punk. And I just said to him, bro, know yourself. You know what I mean? And then we fell out. And I see him a couple of times or whatever. He never said a word to me. I never said a word to him. He could never move to me. He knows that because he knows what it would be. It would be a war because he's got his peoples and I've got people around me that I don't really roll with like that. But if they see anything untoward go down, it's going to end up in problems. So that's how it is.
Well, this is real street.
I never had a problem with Riddler. You know that I never had a problem with Riddler. It was all about that fucking tune.
I know the tune too. It was a great song. Honestly, it was. There was from those two guys, chemistry, whatever you call them. There were two guys I think that made the album together, and that album to me was boring. But there was one song that was amazing, and it was with Navigator and Riddler, and I got to hear the thing that I guess the public didn't hear because I did hear the song with the two of you on it. And you definitely.
I didn't even hear that.
I did. I heard it. It's an awesome song. Your verse, though, when you talk about your lyrical inclination and your understanding of frequencies and sound, Riddler's a poet. Riddler's a lyricist, and he knows how to manipulate words in a structure that flows very nice. But he doesn't have a voice. I wouldn't. and I don't think he would say he has a voice. He's down the lines of Shubba D, if you will, like good lyrics, horrible voice. But Navigator, you have a way of structuring your lyrics that is still fun to listen to, but then that voice, you want to keep listening to it. Whereas for me, the thing that attracted me to Riddler at the beginning was um, not knowing who he was, because you'd have the tape pack and it'd have everyone's name except his. And you're going, who is this guy coming on with this? You're like, who is that? And it's like, oh, that's Riddler. Who's Riddler? And then I dove into and wow, was he lyrical in a time where I didn't hear much lyricism occurring. And that's what really attracted me to Riddler at a young age. It was like somebody coming at it with I guess I wouldn't say he was Stevie, but the Stevie approach of the rat-a-chat with lyrical content.
Yeah.
And I did. I admired him at a very young age, and like I say, he was one of the first guys I ended up bringing out here, and I'm sad to see him go. But I understand everything you're saying about his personality. I know Riddler on a very profound level, and he was his own worst enemy at times, man. He shoot himself in the feet at times. Be like, what happened? I told him to go fuck himself.
Many people like that on the scene. There's so many talented guys, man. They just do it to themselves all the time. There's a guy called SNK right now. He's one of the sickest dudes out here, man. It's just like unhinged, man. I get it, but like it doesn't do him any favors. He's always estranging himself and pushing himself out. If he just chill a bit, man, he'd be able to go out there and eat some real good food off the scene. You just gotta humble up yourself and just take the rough with the smooth sometimes. But a lot of people don't know how to do that. I think with me, I'm just so determined. I've never ever had a lack of energy and power. Never had that. I'm a very, very motivated individual. Like over my own steam. I don't need people kicking me up the ass. But when I do get around people that kick me up the ass, I appreciate them because I know that I need to go to the next level. I just didn't see it until they pointed that out to me, and I'm like, oh, okay, I need to do that as well. And then that's how you expand on a higher level, because you're listening, you're watching.
Do you have any new songs coming out? Do you have any new albums? I know you're talking about.
I've got the album dropped last year. I'm still doing videos now. I'm gonna be shooting a video on Wednesday. And yeah.
That's awesome.
I'm on my video groups of this year. I've dropped about 12 videos. I've got about another 10 to drop. So I'm gonna be doing that until next year. Then I'm gonna be dropping the documentary again. That's got a soundtrack album to it with some very old, unheard material and some stuff that's been out already. I'm going to do that as a free download album. So that's another album that's going to come out. And then I'm going to record a new album. But I'm going to go to Jamaica and record that. But I'm doing stuff with Decline in solo. I'm working with Lion Dub on stuff. I started working with Blackout J.A., Scaramucci, Junior Dangerous. I'm going to be working with him and David Boomer. That's like my four main people who I'm feeling musically, vocally, that I'm going to do collaborations with. But I think, for me personally, I need to do a solo album, just Navi, just to show everybody, the full range of my lyrical and vocal skills, because it's untapped. I haven't really tapped into it properly yet, man. I'm actually, that album I dropped was like more like a compilation album more than it was a Navigator album. I just put a load of songs together, recorded some new songs, and made this album just to put something out that would solidify and consolidate my status as an artist, and it worked very well. But that wasn't really a proper album where I went in the studio and wrote a whole album. So I need to do that. That's the next thing I'm going to do, and I'm going to keep on doing it. But yeah, I'm going to get into this expansive mode. The next album is going to be called Expansion. So we've had a line. Expand on that.
That's awesome. Expansion. You know what I'm going to do when I do post this? I'm going to put the links down below for all the songs we've talked about, any of the links to your pages, so people can at least follow.
The album, I'll give you the link to all of that. If you go on my fan page right now on Facebook and you scroll down, you'll just see video after video after video. I'll just be dropping videos all year.
I did kind of peruse that.
February, I've been dropping. August, I dropped 5 videos.
Are you still jacked? What's up with the fucking weightlifting shit? Sometimes I see you look like you're, benching 400 pounds. The other times I see you, it's a little bit toned down. Where are we at right now at 55 years old?
I'm an older dude now. I went and studied a bit of nutrition stuff, blood type diet. I work with, I still train. I'm doing the Fight Club stuff. I don't need to go as hard as I used to, but I can get big in 2 seconds if I want to. It's just my food intake that I cut down a lot on, and I don't eat certain foods anymore because I know my blood type. I know certain things I have to avoid, and certain things are beneficial for me. So I'm more just a very toned, slim guy. Um, I'm working on letting go of the smoking and get back on the cardio stuff. I really am. I was always a cardio person. I was never that big. But training, I've never left it. I'm a level 3 personal trainer as well.
Are you?
Yeah, I did that. I did that 2 years ago. I've just been like from like 46 years of age up to last year. I've just been studying and getting all these qualifications that I felt as though I needed. So I just went and got them, and now I finished studying. I'm back on the music. Even during that period of time, I was just recording music. That's the reason why I could put the album together so easy. But that documentary, definitely, I'm going to relaunch that, all 3 parts as one part, and then I'm going to release the soundtrack, um, the soundtrack with it. So that's about 12 tracks, and there's some stuff on there that nobody's never heard. You know what I'm saying? So it's going to be a nice thing. You know what I mean? And there's some versions of some music on there that people haven't heard neither. There's a lot of music out there. It's just that I don't have the real dough that I would love to have. I'd like to be putting 50 grand into promotion every time I put something out. So I'm gonna hit everywhere, every country, even if it's just on a lower level, just so that everybody gets it.
I think we all live in that boat, Navi, where we wish we had more than what we have financially.
But even then, even if you are on that level, there's still no guarantee you're gonna get out of it, because a lot of people ain't tuned in. They're not on the radar like that from back in the day. It's a whole new demographic now. You got kids out there. The other day I was walking through Bristol. And I'm walking in the shopping centre, and this youth's coming up to me smiling. Oh my god, oh my god. He's like, I'm sorry, I don't mean to disrespect you, don't know, right? But are you Navigator? And first thing I said to him was, how old are you? He said he's 23. I said, how the fuck do you know about me? So, my mum, my dad, and my uncles and my aunts, and they all listen to your tapes, and now I fucking can't believe it. I'm actually meeting you. I was in the dance the other day, and he was in there, oh my god. He said, can we take a selfie? And I walked away from that, and I was like, that's what I'm talking about. That is my current fan base. Them guys, they're coming to the parties, not their mum and dad. Their mum and dad don't go to the parties no more. So then you do a fight club. You do fight club, which is to drum and bass, a fitness program, and it's a daytime thing. And them old school people are coming out, and it's bare girl. It's not even a man. It's a bare woman, because they want to come out and jiggle and do their little fitness thing, and they want to hear their drum and bass.
That's awesome.
So it's just the things just changed, man, and you got to look for the angles.
Don't they have a party that they're throwing in London now where you bring your kids? It's like the party's for the kids, but then the parents end up showing up too.
Yeah, I forgot what they call that. Kiddie rave or something like
that. Yeah. Toddler party. Yeah.
Toddler drum and bass toddler party or something like that. Yeah, they're doing that now. Yes.
Well, because we're getting older, Navi. That's why. But hey, I'm going to sign up. Guys, I asked him to do 15 to 20 minutes. We've been going for over an hour and a half right now, and I honestly have to go to the bathroom. But I'm going to sign off right now. Hold on there, Navi. You stay with me here. Peace out to you guys.